1. Australia is the smallest continent, but the 6th largest country. While Australia is technically a continent, it's the smallest of the 7 continents. However, it is also the 6th largest country in the world by land area, despite being a single island nation, too. Australia has more than 10,000 beaches. Australia has over 10,000 beaches, making it home to some of the world's most famous beach destinations like Bondi Beach and the Great Barrier Reef. It's often said you could visit a new beach every day for 27 years and still not see them all. 3. You can't find the outback on a map. While Australians commonly refer to the outback, it's not an official or specific geographic location. It's more of a cultural term used to describe the vast, remote interior of Australia, often sparsely populated and harsh in climate. 4. Australia is home to the world's longest fence. Australia has the world's longest fence, known as the Dingo Fence, which stretches over 5,600 kilometers, 3,480 miles. It was originally built to keep dingoes, wild dogs, away from fertile land, but now it also serves to protect sheep farming. 5. Australia's national animal is a kangaroo, but it's also legal to eat one. While the kangaroo is a national symbol, Australians commonly eat kangaroo meat, which is lean, high in protein, and considered a sustainable food source. It's often sold in supermarkets, and kangaroo steaks are popular among locals. 6. Australia is a haven for dangerous animals, but it's also home to many of the world's most endangered species. While Australia is famous for its dangerous wildlife, such as venomous snakes and spiders, it also has one of the highest numbers of endangered species in the world, including the koala. 7. Australia is a dry continent, but it's also one of the world's largest producers of wine. Despite being one of the driest continents, Australia is a major producer of wine, with regions like the Barossa Valley and Margaret River known for their vineyards. In fact, Australia is the 4th largest wine exporter in the world. 8. The Australian Alps get more snow than Switzerland. The Australian Alps, particularly in Victoria and New South Wales, receive more annual snowfall than Switzerland. Despite Australia's reputation for sunny, hot weather, it has a significant snow season in the southern winter months. 9. The Great Barrier Reef is not one reef, but a collection of 2,900 individual reefs. The Great Barrier Reef is often thought of as a single reef, but it's actually a collection of over 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands stretching over 2,300 kilometers. It's the world's largest coral reef system. 10. Australia has a unique form of Christmas celebrations in summer. While Christmas is typically associated with cold weather and snow in most parts of the world, in Australia, Christmas falls during summer. As a result, many Australians celebrate Christmas with beach barbecues, outdoor activities, and Christmas lunch on the beach rather than a snowy winter holiday. 11. Australia has no snakes in some major cities. Despite being infamous for its dangerous wildlife, Australia's major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane have very few snakes. Most snake species are found in rural and remote areas, with the urban environments being largely snake-free. 12. Australia's largest desert is in the center of the country. Despite being a dry and arid continent, Australia's largest desert is actually located in the central part of the country, not on the coast. The Great Victoria Desert covers over 400,000 square kilometers, 1,500,000 square miles. 13. Australia's Uluru is not just red but also blue and green. Uluru is famous for its red sandstone appearance, but it also has significant blue and green hues, especially at dawn and dusk. These color changes are a result of the way light interacts with the rock's mineral composition. 15. Australia's first currency wasn't money, but rum. In early colonial Australia, when there was no official currency, rum was used as a form of money. The currency was so valuable that it was even used to pay workers and buy goods. 14. Australia is the only continent that is also a country. Australia is the only country that occupies an entire continent, and it is often called the island continent because it is entirely surrounded by water, making it unique in its geographic status. 16. There are more camels in Australia than in the wild in the Middle East. Australia is home to around 1 million camels, and more than any other country, including those in the Middle East where camels are native. They were introduced to Australia in the 19th century for transport and are now a significant part of the outback ecosystem. 17. Australia has the world's longest network of railways for freight transport. Australia is home to the longest freight rail network in the world, which spans thousands of kilometers from the east coast to the west, supporting the transport of goods like coal, grain, and minerals. 18. The Southern Hemisphere has a different view of the stars, including the Southern Cross. In the Southern Hemisphere, the constellations visible to the naked eye are completely different from those in the Northern Hemisphere. The Southern Cross is one of the most iconic and widely recognized constellations in Australia, visible from most parts of the country. 19. Australia has 7,000 plus islands, but most Australians live on only 2% of the land. Despite having over 7,000 islands, the vast majority of Australians live on the mainland, primarily along the coastal areas. Only around 2% of the country's land area is densely populated. 20. Tasmania is home to the Apple Isle, but it's also known for its wine production. While Tasmania is known as the Apple Isle due to its history of apple orchards, it is also quickly becoming a notable region for wine production, producing some of Australia's finest cool climate wines, especially Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. 21. There is a place in Australia where it snows in summer. Australia has a small region called the Snowy Mountains, where it can snow during the summer months. The combination of high elevation and unusual weather patterns makes this possible in some years. 22. Australia's national anthem is a song about an unknown author. Australia's national anthem, Advance Australia Fair, was composed by Peter Dodds McCormick in 1878. It was adopted in 1984. But its lyrics had a relatively obscure and controversial history prior to becoming the official anthem, and many were unaware of the author's identity for years. 23. There are more kangaroos than people in Australia. Kangaroos outnumber humans in Australia, with a population of around 50 million kangaroos, compared to just over 26 million people. They are a common sight across the country's vast landscapes. 24. Australia has the world's longest coastline for a country without an archipelago. Australia has the longest coastline of any country that is not part of an archipelago, stretching over 25,000 kilometers, 16,000 miles. Despite being surrounded by water, it is a single landmass, not a series of islands. 25. Australia is home to the longest wooden jetty in the world. The Busselton Jetty in Western Australia is the longest wooden jetty in the world, stretching 1.8 kilometers, 1.1 miles, into the Indian Ocean. It is a hub for diving and marine activities. 26. Australia has the largest population of immigrants in the Southern Hemisphere. Australia is known for its multicultural society, with a large portion of its population being born overseas. It has one of the highest rates of immigration in the Southern Hemisphere, with over a quarter of its population being immigrants. 27. There are no wild horses in Australia, but they are everywhere. Australia is home to millions of feral horses known as brumbies, which are not native but have flourished since being introduced by early European settlers. Interestingly, they are considered an invasive species in some areas. 28. Australia has a pink lake that changes color with the seasons. Lake Hillier, located on Middle Island in Western Australia, is famous for its bright pink color, which is caused by the presence of certain algae. The color can appear to be more intense in summer and can fade during winter months. 29. Australia's largest wildflower bloom happens in the outback. Every year an extraordinary wildflower bloom occurs in the Australian outback. Known as the outback flowering, this event turns vast stretches of desert into vibrant carpets of color, attracting tourists from around the world.